The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Phixated podcast. Some would call it a Christmas edition of the Phixated podcast. We are right around the corner from the big day, and I am joined tonight by a man whose patience is unmatched. It has been a long night. We initially said 8:30. It is 9:40,
That's right.
and we are recording. Regs, thanks for hanging in, buddy.
Oh, it wasn't just you. We didn't put our kids to bed till almost like 8:30, which is an hour later than we usually do. So I was right there with you, bud. I was right there with you.
I mean, can I just open the show with the story about what happened tonight?
Yeah, because I'm still we skipped past it very quickly in our pre-show conversation, but I don't know if we should have.
All right, so Puff, still her 17-year-old shaggy self, and Andrea was like, she looks so bad, I just want to trim around her neck and her face. And Andrea's done this before, so it's fine. And she's over there for about 15 minutes, and she's like, I'm doing it this. I'm really proud of the job I've done. She looks really good. And I didn't disagree. But then all of a sudden I hear Puff yelp. Not once, but twice. And I look over and Andrea goes, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And there's just blood dripping off of Puff's ear. And I'm like, what did you do? She Van Gogh'd our dog.
I must say that when you sent that tweet, when you sent that text to me, it took me a second to be like, wait, what? It took me a minute to just comprehend what had actually happened.
Regs, I don't understand how it happened. But then we went through 2 or 3 washcloths, trying to calm the blood off of, poor Puff. And I mean, I texted you, I was like, look, give me a few more minutes. Andrea Van Gogh'd the dog. So I'm sitting upstairs. Andrea's like, is this it? Is this going to be the end? I'm like, no, I don't think Puff's going to bleed out from you nipping her ear.
Yeah, right.
I think we're going to be okay. Just keep pressure on it. For those of you who are really on the edge of your seats, Puff is no longer bleeding from the ear. And she's going to be fine. But I mean, seriously, it's every time.
Oh,
every time.
It's almost every week something happens.
With Puff.
Yeah, right before we're about to start recording.
It's always with Puff.
Always.
It's always something with Puff. And honestly, I can't blame Puff tonight. It wasn't her fault.
Yeah, right. Sure.
She had nothing to do with her ear being snipped.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm like, Andrea, how did you not know it was her ear? Well, she has a lot of mats. Okay.
Yeah, right.
It was her ear.
Oh my gosh.
What a start, man.
Another reason I don't have dogs.
What a start. What a start. Unbelievable. Well, Regs, I think as we enter the Christmas season, I got to ask you this question. We didn't talk about this before we started. But if you could have any Philadelphia themed Christmas gift,
ooh,
and it doesn't have to be material, it doesn't have to be materialistic, but if something was going to be left under the tree that was Philadelphia sports oriented, what would you be asking for? What would be that number one item, on December 25th?
I'm going to be very greedy and say 2 things. Number 1, I want Bryce's bat from the San Diego home run.
Oh, that's a cool one.
And then number 2, I want locker room passes for me and my boys, so they could go meet the players and tour the basement of the stadium and all that stuff.
That's awesome. Those are good ones.
That would be my 2 choices.
Those are.
I had a third option. I want seats from Citizens Bank Park.
Okay.
That would have been my third option.
Okay, I've
right
also got
you.
I've also got 2. I would like an NLCS championship ring.
Fantastic choice.
I would like a National League championship ring. I feel
choice.
like I did a lot to get us there.
I agree.
And
I agree.
I feel like that is something that I really want.
Yeah,
So
it's a great one.
that's under the tree.
Great choice.
I would also like to receive something that's like more, I guess sort of like your Bryce thing. And that for me would now I'm kind of between two things, Rags.
Oh,
I'm like between an Eagles thing and a Phillies thing.
can I guess what the Phillies thing is?
You can.
Is it Roy Halladay related?
It's not.
Oh, all right. I was guessing something different.
Were you gonna say like a Roy Halladay ball from the perfect game in the no hitter?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's actually, well, yeah, it's not that, because I've actually seen that at the Hall of Fame. So like that is it, it's cool to have seen that. It's actually something from this year. It's something from the run. I want Topper's World Series jersey.
There you go.
Like in the worst kind of way.
Yeah,
I want
I like
Topper's
that.
World Series jersey because I don't know. I just kind of like fell in love with the way the guy managed and like handled the locker room. So that was my other Philly. What was your third one? Then I'll do my Eagles one.
Yeah, my third was the stadium seats.
Oh yes. I'm sorry. So this one's a little weird. I want Jalen Hurts' arm to be okay.
I don't know if you could wrap that, but I get it.
Well, I said it doesn't have to be something materialistic. It could be something out there.
But we can't.
Like you could ask for a Super Bowl if you wanted to.
We can't give him one of your shoulders, so we'd have to pick somebody else.
Oh yeah, I can't throw.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, so that's out of the question.
We got to pick somebody else.
That's out of the question. Those are good ones. I like that for us. Those are good ones.
Those were good
for
ones.
us. All right. So we didn't mention the Sixers, so I guess we got to mention the Sixers.
Listen,
we're becoming less and less of a Sixers podcast.
2 weeks in a row, we're talking about them.
I know. And you know what? I've watched 2 games now.
Good for you. I have not.
I've done it. I've
caught some highlights, but nothing official. Of course, they don't, unless it's a national game, it's not getting shown around here. So,
right.
Or unless they're playing the Wizards.
And I'll probably, they do this week.
Yeah, that's right. So I could catch one, but I won't.
And I'll probably watch tomorrow night too, because I'm basically done with all things Christmas at this point. All right, so let's dive in a little bit since we talked last. Believe it or not, friends, they did win all 3 games. We predicted 3-0, and they went 3-0. I mean, it feels good.
When we talk about them, this is what happens.
Yeah, we bring them back around.
Yeah, that's right.
We bring them back around. So they're now 18-12. They're still sitting in the 5th spot of the East. It's not as bad as it was though, Regs. 3.5 games out.
There you go.
Yeah, so, only a game behind the Nets and 2.5 behind the Cavs for 3rd.
Yeah.
But let's just sort of talk about the 3 games and work through how they got to where, to this point, because again, I think, your story is always what it is, which is Joel Embiid. In the Warriors game that they handle, I mean, no one from the Warriors played.
No,
like that. It was basically like no one, but that is what it is. You can only play who's out there. We talk about that all the time, pretty much every sport. Joel had 34 and 13, which is becoming more and more of the norm.
Yeah, right.
Toby did not play that night, but again, Melton with another big night, 17 and 9, and Harden had 27 with 9 assists. So, you talked a little bit about the assists with him. Mm-hmm. And I still think 9's a pretty fair number. I know you wanted him up in double digits, but 9's still a fair number. And he did score a bunch that night.
And I think what we can key on is the field goal attempts. Like, again, he was at 15. Like, that's exactly where I want him to be. Again,
8 of 15, 4 of 8.
Right, exactly. 9 free throws, I think, was a big jump from the past couple games. Obviously, with Toby being out, he had to score a little bit more than, the past couple games that we talked about last week. But that's the efficiency. Like, that's where we see him shooting 50% from the floor and 50% from 3. Yeah. Like, again, we'll take the 9 assists with an efficient 27 points.
Right. Well, so then we'll jump to the Raptors game, which they took to overtime.
Yeah.
And won by 3, but they were down late, so it was nice to see them fight a little bit. I mean, the Raptors just always give them fits.
They just, it's not a good matchup. They have so many athletic guys who can just be all over the place. I know they're a little hurt right now, so they're not at full strength.
I mean, you know, Van Vliet played, Siakam played, Anunoby played.
Yeah.
Like they pretty much, Scotty Barnes was out there.
Right. Yeah.
Really they were missing Gary Trent, who does, you know, beat them up, and Achioa was also not playing. But Siakam at 38 and 15, big night from him.
That dude's pretty
Boucher
good.
at 13 and 10 too. But again, Joel with a double, 28-11. It's just a machine. It's every single night.
That wasn't a good Harden night. 1 for 6. 6 from 3, 5 for 14. Like that's the worst case scenario. And then
it was a good Toby night though.
See, that's what makes them win the game. This is what we were talking about a little. Like we can go through the next game if we want to, or if we just want to pause here and talk about him. This is what this team can be when Toby plays like this.
Right.
Like this is when he's earning that contract. It's Maxey is not at a point. I know he's hurt, but I'm just talking in like the global sense. Maxey is not at a point even yet that he can be relied on for like 25. I think that's a lot for him to score. I think you want him in like the 19 to, you know, the 18 to like 21 range. Again, with a bunch of assists, a bunch of fast break points. That's what you want Maxey to be doing.
Yes.
But when you can combine Maxey at 18 with Harden at, you know, 19 or 20, Embiid at 30 something, and then Toby at, again, around that 19, 20, maybe 22 range, like this team becomes a whole different team.
Yeah.
Because we've seen that you can sort of just focus on Harden and Embiid, or just Maxey and Embiid if Harden's having a bad night. Defenses are too good nowadays. Even bad defenses can focus on 2 guys. Like it makes their decisions really easy, right? You get NBA defenses into problems when they have to make multiple decisions, one after another.
Yes.
And when you can have a 4th guy who can score like that, and how he's been shooting when he can shoot like that, that's what makes the difference in being a great team as opposed to just a good team.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, we see it with the Sixers themselves. Like when there's more, like when they play the Celtics and there are multiple guys who can score the basketball, they struggle.
Right.
You know, those are the teams that give them fits, and I think that's what, you know, it is what makes teams great, and that's kind of why they've struggled when it comes to the playoffs, because Ben just went into a hole for all those series and couldn't score. And you know, although Harden isn't the same player, he's still a threat out there to be able to hurt you. But if if he's passing the way he is, then you know you're in good shape.
Yeah, and because they run so many Harden and Embiid pick and rolls, that it becomes a lot easier. Maxey is not a 3-point threat. I know when he gets hot, he likes to chuck him up there. But
he also has improved quite a bit, though.
Yes, but he's not like a spot up shooter. You know what I mean? That's just not his thing. We know Melton can be on and off. He has his nights, he has his off nights, but you don't have him to do that. You know, he's not like one of your studs. But if you just need to focus on the Embiid Harden pick and roll, that allows those outside defenders to just help so much on that Embiid roll, which is devastating because Harden is such a good passer. He can put the ball exactly where Embiid needs it to do a million different things. And that's when they become really dangerous. But if the guys around them aren't shooting, this is what we've talked about a million times. You need a great pick and roll, but you need the guys around them to keep those outside defenders honest. So they don't just crash as soon as Embiid rolls to the basket. And then you just have Harden dribbling around at the top of the key doing nothing. So that's what I mean. If Melton can be on and Toby can be shooting well and Maxey's out there with, just grabbing the ball and slashing to the basket, like immediately using his speed while the defense rotates, that's where you get the visions of this team, sort of what people talked about in the beginning of the year, this probably top 3 team. I think realistically, they were always behind the Celtics. They were always still behind the Bucks.
Yeah.
But they always had the potential to be the third team, the third best team in the East.
I do think they could potentially match up with Milwaukee.
Yeah,
I really believe that.
Milwaukee's not quite the same as they have been.
I think the Celtics are just ridiculous.
Celtics are a head and shoulders above almost every team in the whole league.
But I feel like the Bucks remind me a little bit of the Sixers in a lot of ways. Clearly they have a superstar, and I think Middleton. I think I feel a little bit more negatively about Middleton than you do.
He's still really good.
He is. But I don't know. He's not a guy that like terrifies me.
Yeah, no, that's true. But the problem is,
I don't know. Weird. It's weird the way I feel about him.
The problem is the Sixers don't really have anybody to guard Giannis.
Yeah, they always use Joel.
Yeah, which is tough because Giannis can literally beat you from anywhere on the floor, and you don't want
could PJ Tucker guard him?
Maybe he's just not tall enough, man.
Yeah,
Giannis is so damn big. Like I know not like stature wise, he's just so damn tall and lanky that
isn't one of those things where you just let Giannis get his, and and again, we're so far from that conversation being like.
But the thing is
it just one of those things where you're like, all right, go get it, right? Do what you're gonna do.
The problem with that is when you do that, you lose momentum.
Right.
And I know people don't like to talk about that because it's not a real tangible thing, but it's like saying just let Steph shoot his threes and we'll let everyone else stop. Like that doesn't work because Steph ignites the crowd. Steph ignites his entire team when he's doing what he's doing. If you just let Giannis go to work, you're going to have to be so efficient offensively. Like the Bucks are still a very good defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes, you have to be so efficient offensively because Giannis can literally score every time he comes down the court.
Right.
If you
hack Giannis,
I mean, he's getting better. He's not awful. Like he's not Shaq. You know what I mean? He's not like a 30% free throw shooter or a Simmons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's getting better at it, which makes him just an otherworldly threat with the basketball in his hand.
Oh, for sure.
I don't like that approach just because it still takes the wind out of your sails as a team when you just see a guy come down and just score over and over and over and over again. And then all they need is one or two stops and you've literally you just die inside as the opposing team. If you don't match them even for two possessions, you're just like, Jesus, are we going to do anything tonight? It's one of those things that I think feeds into the wrong mindset.
Right.
From a basketball standpoint.
And I think, again, I think getting a little bit almost ahead of ourselves in that conversation because we don't know what playoff matchups will look like. And right now, it is crazy to think that we are where we are in the NBA season. They're 30 games in. We're almost at the halfway point.
Yeah.
We'll be at the halfway point here soon.
Right.
Now, the third game in that run was against the Pistons, and the Sixers did what they should do, which is blow out the Pistons.
Yes, absolutely.
They won. They won by 20.
Yeah. You need to beat these bad teams,
which is great. And again, Joel with a double-double, and Toby had 17, but he was 2 of 4 from 3, and Harden had 8 assists with 15 points. He didn't shoot great, but again, he was in that 14 shot range. Here's the thing that concerns me a little bit, Regs, before we go into their next 3. And, you kind of covered Toby and his shooting ability right now. And we talked a little bit before the show about him being streaky, which we know he is. But here's a concern that I have, and I could be crazy. I just feel like I'm just going to throw some numbers out at you. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to say that the player and the number.
Okay. Joel,
and this is the last 3 games. All 3 wins, 2 double-digit victories, and 1 in overtime, okay. Joel Embiid, 35. James Harden, 36. Okay. Monday against the Raptors. Overtime game, Joel Embiid, 42. James Harden, 41. And then a 20-point victory, Joel Embiid, 34. James Harden, 32. These are their minutes.
Yeah, it's not great.
In the middle of December. There's no reason Joel Embiid should have played 34 minutes in that Pistons game.
No.
Now, partially understand the Raptors game being overtime. But again, it's an overtime game in December.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that game. You don't have to have that game. We need these two in May and June. We do not need these two in the middle of December.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
It concerns me, Regs.
It's a huge concern because Harden still has lower body injuries. Like, he's just coming back from another one. He had the hamstring last year. Joel has had his own lower body injuries, which for a big guy like that are just, you're almost just counting down and hoping that every game something else doesn't happen.
Right.
Listen, you're on Doc like I'm on Gannon. Like, it's just our things. Like, it's just how, it's just how we're going to roll with certain coaches. Like, This is a Doc issue. There has to be someone in his ear telling him, and he has to be able to listen. Like, hey, let's just play someone else. Like, we're up by a lot. It's not going to be bad. Like, everything's going to be fine. This is not a good team. The Raptors thing, I can get it. Like, you're in a competitive situation. Embiid, I'm sure, doesn't want to come out. James, I'm sure, doesn't want to come out. Those games are tough against a rival, a team that you've met in the playoffs a few times. Like, I kind of get that one, if I'm going to be honest. The Detroit game makes no sense.
Yeah.
That number should be almost less than 30.
Yep. I don't know. It worries me. That's all.
No, it's a absolutely valid point. Harden gets tired.
Yeah.
In the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not a maybe, and it's not a thing that we need more evidence on. It has happened enough times that this is a thing.
Yes.
And Joel is what makes this team go. Yep. So that's how you have to manage it. It's how Milwaukee manages Giannis. It's how the Clippers manage Kawhi and Paul George. Again, they might be on the other extreme.
Yeah.
Those guys miss, 2 games a week. But they do it for that reason. Kawhi is coming back from an injury. They need him to be ready for when it matters. So he's like, Doc isn't as bad as like Thibodeau, who just would run guys into the earth with the minutes that he would have them play. But when it's your stars who have to carry you in the playoffs, you got to be better at it. You just got to be better at it.
Well, we'll see if he figures it out, because it's something that I feel like has been kind of popping up in my mind as I look at these games, and as I was watching that Detroit game, I was like, this is probably a good time to put him down.
Yep.
But they do have 3 games coming up here. They have one tomorrow night at home against the Clippers. I was wrong. I thought it was an away game, but I must have read it wrong. And then they go to New York on Sunday, and then Washington on Tuesday. The Clippers, like you said, obviously they have 2 stars. We'll see what happens if they play, especially on the road, cross country, middle of December. I think Kawhi's only played like 13 games this year.
Yeah, it's not a
12
lot.
Games. Yeah.
He's looked pretty good though in the ones he has played.
Oh yeah, always. And your former Philly great Robert Covington back in town.
That's right.
Paul George has played 23 games. I think it's likely we see him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I don't know if Kawhi will play. They're 5th in the West, so kind of similar season, 19 and 14 to this point. And then on the road against the Knicks on Christmas Day at noon, and they will. That game's I don't want to call it super important, but that's a team who's right behind them in the standings.
Yeah, and and a team that's playing better as of late. The Knicks are playing a lot better than they did at the beginning of the season.
Yep, and then a really bad Washington team.
Yeah.
So any chance that they roll to 9 in a row here? Are we looking at a loss or 2 in this stretch?
I say 2-1. There's a good chance they lose either the Knicks game or the Clippers game.
I think it's just going to happen. I think that Christmas Day game's a loss.
Yeah,
I do. On the road, it's the early game,
right?
It would be cool to be nine in a row because, as we were saying earlier, they're right back in this conversation. Like they're 3 games behind the Celtics right now.
Yeah, right.
So it's really packed up top. But hey, go Sixers.
Yeah,
We're having a little bit of fun right now.
Keep it rolling.
Yeah, let's
Let's
ride a little bit. Let's ride a little bit. I mean, it's almost the halfway point, and the trade deadline rolls around in February, and that'll be here before we know it. I don't know what they have to trade. I don't know, what we're looking at in that regard, or if there's even anything that we need to add, especially because you get Tyrese Maxey back soon here, hopefully, and that's a perfect addition to a team who's kind of finding itself a little bit right now.
Yeah.
But let's jump ship, Rags, if you will. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, this is something I'm going to steal the reins from you for a second.
Yeah.
Because this is something I want the people to have your opinion on. If anybody hasn't seen, there was a late night blockbuster that happened just a couple days ago. The Carlos Correa deal with the Giants tanked based on some yet unreported piece of his medical or his physical. And in that time, Scott Boras went to Steve Cohen of the Mets, and the Mets offered him a 13-year,
13
year,
years.
$315 million.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
$315 million contract. Carlos Correa will now be playing third base for the New York Mets and not shortstop for the San Francisco Giants. And this started a conversation in the wider baseball world of whether or not this sort of spending by Cohen is good or bad,
right,
for baseball as a whole. So I want to get your opinion on maybe just the deal itself, how you feel, if this changes your opinion on the Mets at all, in comparison to the Phillies or just on their own. And then what you think about Cohen's spending and what it means for baseball as a whole.
Yeah, I guess I'll just start with the Mets. Dude, their projected payroll is like close to 500 million with their tax penalties.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
So, I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. There's a lot of pressure on them. Like I said this on the last show, like this was even before the Correa thing happened. And they're not done yet, apparently. Like they're still looking to add another bat and a reliever. Like I've seen them tied to Liam Hendricks. So, they're still looking to add at this point, which holy moly. And now that they have Correa to play third, they can trade that Beatty kid for a guy like Hendricks. So, clearly they're terrifying. I'm not going to sit here and concede the division or the league championship to them because they're still the Mets, and their manager, albeit one of the better managers of our lifetime, I think you could supplement the word regular season manager in there because, Buck is good, but there's a reason Buck doesn't have a World Series.
Yeah.
He's never figured it out in October. And again, like Correa definitely makes them a better team than they were last year. That was a conversation that we have had, that they still haven't, like, they're not better.
Yeah,
well, now
right.
I do think they are.
For
now,
sure.
Someone called Carlos Correa a generational player. I don't believe he's a generational player.
Yeah.
I think he's a good player. I think he's probably a top 15 player in baseball. If you look at Carlos Correa's numbers, I don't have them up. I believe his best season was 2017.
Yeah,
there's a reason why 2017 was his best season.
Yeah, also true.
his numbers haven't dropped significantly, but they're certainly not what they were. I think his second best season was 2019.
There's certainly something to be said about that.
Yeah. Now, last year his numbers were down a bit. And some of that could have been he was playing in Minnesota, and there's not a whole lot around him in Minnesota. He'll have a lot around him in New York.
He's still at 291.
Yeah, no, he was still fine. I think his OPS was a little on the lower end for his career numbers.
Yes.
But I do think, and here's the other piece that you have to remember: he's going to be playing third base, which he doesn't do. So, remember when we moved Gene Segura to third base?
Yes.
And he struggled offensively?
Yes.
And he struggled defensively. Like, it's fine if you're going to go spend all this money. But there comes a point where you have to look around and say, where are we going to go with all these guys?
Yeah.
So, again, like, Correa is a good ball player. I still don't know, that they're better than the Phillies. I think that I was thinking through this today. They don't have many more homegrown players than the Phillies have. I mean, their rotation has like nothing homegrown on it.
Well, yeah, and it's anchored by two 40-year-olds, 40
Yeah,
plus
they have
year-olds.
nothing homegrown in their rotation. The Phillies could potentially have 3 homegrown starters in their rotation this year. The Mets catcher is homegrown, the first baseman's homegrown, the second baseman's homegrown, and the center fielder's homegrown. Left field is not, right field is not, shortstop is not, third base is not. And again, like, Alonso is going to need to be paid at some point. And I'm sure they'll pay him because they're paying everybody right now.
Makes no difference at this point.
Alvarez will save him some money because he's young. He's a young catcher. They traded McCann last night pretty late. They traded him to the Orioles. And, they just paid Nimmo a boatload, and McNeil will have to get paid too.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're not going to get super into this right now. I'm still not sure they're better than the Phillies. And I think that this could lead to another Phillies move. It would not surprise me if this led to another Phillies move, another move offensively to deepen that lineup even more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm just not as scared as the Mets as a lot of Phillies fans are right now. And we'll dig more into that as we get closer to the season.
Well, yeah, we'll save that for when we get into it.
Let's talk a little bit about your other question, which was, is this good for baseball? And I've been teetering, Regs. Like, some of me is like, yeah, like it's good. But I think I only feel that way because I'm a Phillies fan, and I think it's brought out the best in John Middleton.
Yeah.
But if I'm like a Cardinals fan or
everyone's talking about the Red Sox.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the heck's going on there.
Negligence is what's going on there.
Well, Regs, can I say something for a second?
Yeah. It's our podcast, buddy.
I need to own this, buddy. I was a Chaim Bloom guy.
Oh.
I wanted Chaim Bloom to be the GM of the Phillies.
Okay.
I did. I will say it on this show. Mike Azzolina, wanted Chaim Bloom to be the GM of the Philadelphia Phillies when they hired Dave Dombrowski to be the president of baseball ops. And I was upset and bothered because I wanted the next great mind. And holy crap, he's been terrible.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't know how much of it's ownership.
I was about to say, he might be a little bit hindered. We don't really know that for sure. He's obviously kind of buying into, he has to. Like, if the people with the money say, well, you have to do this, you don't really have much of an argument.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about with Dave. Dave didn't want to trade Mookie Betts, and that's why he left.
Right. Which was the right thing to think.
Right. And not only is Betts gone, but Bogarts is gone. And now they can't come to terms with Devers, and that's the guy I think that the Phillies might go and try and get.
Just crazy.
Talked about it on the Dream Offseason show.
You did.
And and he's going to be available. And the Phillies have the pieces to do it. And now they kind of have the urgency to do it because they've got to sort of stay up a little bit here with the Mets and what they're doing. So I think from that side of things, it's good for baseball because it challenges the other owners to go and make these types of moves. The problem is, Regs, that no matter how rich these guys are, they're not doing it. But there's also not enough players. Free agency looks differently in baseball than it does in other sports.
Yeah.
Like in football, you're not going to see a 13-year deal. And a lot of baseball teams aren't willing to do that because they don't want to hamstring themselves for 13 years.
Right.
So when you talk about a salary cap, I don't think it'll ever happen because longevity in baseball is so different than longevity in football and basketball. Careers just don't last as long in those two sports.
Yeah.
Careers last a lot longer in baseball.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because of the grind of the season, but it's just not as like physical.
Right. It's not,
in the same ways.
Yeah.
So, guys can sign longer term deals, and there are some organizations who aren't willing to invest that long in players. The Phillies clearly are. The Mets clearly are. The Yankees clearly are.
Yeah. And I don't think there's been a ton of those types of contracts.
No, they're becoming more prevalent.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't think there's been one presented to a player that hasn't deserved it. Like, again, you go to the Manny Machado thing. Like, that dude's a beast. Like, Manny Machado is really good at baseball. It makes perfect sense to offer a guy like that money. Mike Trout. It makes perfect sense to offer Mike Trout those types of years. It makes perfect sense to offer Bryce Harper that amount of years. It makes sense even for Trey Turner and Carlos Correa. Like, those guys are good enough at baseball right now. Like, again, we're not speaking to their legacy, as a baseball player. We're speaking to the player they've been since they came into the league and what they are right now.
Yeah.
I think you can easily justify all of those contracts. And I'm again, maybe I'm missing one here or there, but I don't think there's been a ton of like unbelievable duds. Maybe besides the Albert Pujols 10-year, but he was like 34 when they gave him that, or 35,
Yeah.
and already well past like his prime as a baseball player.
Right.
A lot of these guys are getting
a good
it.
example.
A lot of these guys are getting it in their prime for the most part. I'm not going to say that it's not. No, it doesn't backfire.
I think at this point it is. Like, I think at this point you're really paying for the, like Ruben said on the show, like you're paying for the first 6 years of the contract.
Exactly.
Like, you worry about the last 4 or 5 at the end of it. But, I'm really struggling with like, this is bad for baseball. Like I don't know that we'll ever have there's not enough, like, again, there's not enough players to give them to.
Yeah, right.
So, in this case, the Giants, I don't know what happened there.
Oh my God. Like, I can't wait for that story.
Clearly they saw something to back out, and the Mets were like, whatever, we don't care.
I can't wait to hear what that was. Like, Carlos Correa.
I don't know that we'll find out.
Carlos Correa is really good.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to find out.
I think we will eventually.
Okay. We'll see. But here's the problem, Regs. And I don't know if it's as much of a problem for us, right now, just because. But there are like 5 good teams in the National League, and I don't even know that there are 5. I think there's really 4.5, and then a couple on the peripheral. Like, who do you see in the National League is like being good?
Phillies.
Yeah.
Mets.
Yeah.
Padres.
Yeah.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
Cardinals?
I wrote them with a question mark.
Yeah. Man. Who am I missing?
I have one more with a question mark. And I don't know how you missed these guys.
I don't know how I did either. It's one of those things where I'm going to draw a blank.
Yeah, you're probably, and the other thing is, you're trying to think through 15 teams. The Braves.
Fair. Okay. That's a good question mark. I think that's a fair question mark.
I just think the Dansby Swanson loss is like, whoa. And they haven't fixed left field.
No, I think that's a team that doesn't have. I mean, again, you could say Acuna's a superstar. Again, I have my own opinions about him, but he's a very good baseball player. But
yeah, and I mean, Matt Olson's very good.
Yeah, but they don't have like, they aren't at the top end, sort of like
Right.
San Diego and the Mets and the Phillies are.
And Alex, but he's good.
They've proven to be a very good baseball team, like that you don't want to face.
And they added Sean Murphy, who I think I might have overhyped him on one of our previous shows. Like he's a fine player, but he's not like a game changer, especially he's hitting fifth. Like he's a 250 hitter with like 20 home runs a year. Like, okay. Like the Braves feel like they're trying to become the A's. And look, if you want to move the A's to Atlanta, I'll take that.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah. Yep, we'll take that.
I mean, we'll absolutely take that. I read that they were trying to trade Max Fried. Like, go ahead, trade one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. That's fine.
Yeah, can we have him?
Right? So I mean, when I look around the National League, there's just not a whole lot of, and the good news for us is we don't have to play 19 games against our division this year.
Yeah, the schedule is different, right?
It's so different. We play 12 games in our division. I don't think we play the Mets or the Braves till like the end of May.
Yeah, that's wild.
Which is awesome.
No, it's great.
And we get to play the American League Central.
Yeah, we'll take that.
And the American League West.
Yep.
And we get to play, I don't know if we get more games with the National League Central. Like, I don't know how, I haven't looked at the layout, but we certainly aren't sitting 19 games with the Mets again this year.
Yeah, it's becoming less like those sort of old Big East college basketball tournaments where everyone would just wallop each other to death.
Yeah.
Which would be essentially like what the top end of the National League East would look like.
Yeah.
Like the games against the Braves and the Mets would be just crazy. Mm-hmm. Which again, I think, and I heard the High Hopes guys talking about this, and Jack was really excited about sort of the rivalry that is going to be sprung from this. And I'm with you. Like I like rooting against somebody. Like,
for
that's
sure.
Great.
Who doesn't?
We rooted enough against the Mets, but now I think we're on an even playing field with them, where in the past, I think we've been a little bit behind them.
Mm-hmm.
So now I think it's more fun from a Phillies perspective that there's no excuse like, all right, we're just not as good as them.
Yeah.
Which really was the case the entire regular season until we went on this run that we went on. Like the Phillies were not better than the Mets. They just weren't.
Nope.
Now it's like from a lineup perspective, at the very least, we can match the Mets, and again, we'll get into this, but like I told you earlier, I think I would still take our lineup over the Mets lineup, top to bottom.
Again, yeah, with Bryce in it. Yep.
Yeah, of course. Well, we'll get into that another time.
So just to kind of wrap that conversation up, like I'm good with the guy spending all this money. Like, it's what big markets are supposed to do. It's what the Yankees did for years.
Yeah.
It's what the Dodgers have been doing for the last like decade.
Yep.
It's what the Phillies have started to do over the last 4 or 5 years. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. At what point is it too much that the other owners are gonna come together and say, yo, we got to cap this because like the competitive balance is just going to be impossible.
I think it's getting close to that point, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's good in the sense because it generates news about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun to be like, oh, the Red Sox traded another really good player. Like the Red Sox are an iconic baseball team.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel about them from a baseball perspective, like they're an iconic baseball team. When they're doing exciting things, baseball as a whole rises. It's the same with the Yankees. When the Yankees do crazy stuff, like in the Steinbrenner age, baseball rises because people are talking about it. But I think it's getting to the point, like you said, it's getting top heavy. and maybe too much so, that how can you justify these local TV contracts and things like that when these teams are just going to not spend any money? Like
Correct.
it's going to get to the point, like you said, that the other owners are going to say something, but I almost think it should be the opposite. I think the guys spending money should be like, you have to come a little bit closer to us. We don't have to come closer to you. You got to come closer to us.
Right.
Because that's what moves this sport forward. That's what gets people talking about baseball. That's what gets people interested in baseball. Why would you be interested as a Boston Red Sox fan when you let go the best players on your team? Why would you care? Why would you sit down and watch a baseball game? Like, so I think if we're just talking about baseball as a whole, I think it should move a little bit towards what Cohen is doing. I think these other guys should be forced to spend more than they are. But I do think, of course, the other guys are going to argue the other way. Like, you got to stop this so we can try and keep up. But
like the Pirates right now, their projected payroll without arbitration in it is $54 million.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
But again, if you're a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, like, what makes you excited to go to the stadium other than they're going to be playing somebody?
That's the really frustrating part, because, like, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's one of the most beautiful stadiums in the world.
I haven't been in the stadium, but I've seen it from afar.
I mean, it is incredible.
Yeah.
And they don't put a product out there.
Right. Nothing.
Like, I'm going to go see the Phillies play this year just so I can be in the stadium, because I truly find it to be that beautiful. Regs, we should go.
Hey, I'd love to.
I'll let you know when they play there.
All right.
I think, there's such a big conversation to this, and I hopefully it becomes more prevalent around the game and around fan bases, because something's got to give.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
like it, but I agree. I want more owners to come toward him.
I get it. There's a difference. Like, this guy is just saying, F it. I'm just going balls to the wall.
It's a hobby.
Yeah. And he has the money to do it. I get it that not all owners are the same. So not all guys.
They're still all billionaires.
Listen, they're still very rich people.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. That's why I think they need to come the other way. We shouldn't encourage less spending.
Right.
Period. It's just no one wants to go watch the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Red Sox have enough of a fan base that people are still going to go, and Fenway Park is still a destination that baseball people want to go to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you keep doing this to this team, the Boston fan base is very much like Philadelphia. They're emotional.
Yeah.
They haven't been happy since the Mookie Betts trade. And you're just going to continue to do this? It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Regs, we're going to end the baseball segment with this.
Right.
The Phillies play in Pittsburgh the last weekend in July.
Okay.
28th, 29th, 30th. I feel like that might be like a full weekend of us in Pittsburgh.
Listen, if we put it on the books early enough, anything can happen.
Do we do it? Do we do it?
Why not?
A full weekend. Golf. Baseball.
Yeah, let's figure it all out.
All right, we'll figure it out. Hey,
remote podcast.
Remote podcast.
Yeah. All that.
It's coming. All right. Hey, we'll talk off the air about that.
Yep. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that one out. Yeah, Phixated at PNC. All right, Regs. To the birds.
I'm sure they'll have a podcast studio open or some room that we can use. There's not going to be many media people there.
Yeah, no one gives a crap about the Pirates. The birds.
Yeah.
The birds.
Yeah. There's some good and some bad that we got to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, let's just quickly recap what happened.
I followed this game through text messages with you, so that's literally how I followed what was happening. That's why I was texting you so much.
I love it. I mean, look, this was this is one of those games where I just think the weather impacted them so much. I mean, some of their comments afterward were like, this is the coldest I've ever felt in my life. Like,
yeah.
I think the wind, there's a reason why it's called the Windy City.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they all commented on how ridiculous the wind was and that it just felt differently among like their other games. Like they've played in cold weather, but this was just an entirely different level of cold. So I think as we start this conversation, one thing that stood out to me in this game, I don't know that I'm going to go too far into the defense here. I'm probably going to stick in the offense. Was I don't know what they were doing running Jalen Hurts as much as they were running Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of designed runs, Regs. Like there were a lot of designed runs. And I'm not quite sure what that was about. Miles Sanders only had 11 carries. Like,
yeah, for how he's playing, that can't happen.
That can't happen.
Yeah.
So,
I'm really hoping that this is one of those things, and we've seen this a couple times, even throughout last year and into this year. There's just some times where you kind of feel Sirianni as only the year 2 guy.
Yeah.
And that he sort of needs to take these punches to learn. And this was, I hope that this was one of them.
Yeah.
You ran your quarterback too much and you got him hurt. Like, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
This is the punch in the gut that he needed to change his approach to this particular part of the offense. Granted, Jalen's running ability is a huge part of the offense. And it's what makes them dynamic. It's what makes them difficult to defend against. But this is what happens when you get stuck on it. And I feel like Nick sometimes gets stuck on something and then has to get punched in the gut to kind of realize, oh, I have to figure out how to adjust this and find the happy medium.
Yeah, let's stay there for a second because the system quarterback still found a way to be really, really good after hurting his shoulder.
Yeah.
I think he was like 7 of 9 and had 4 quarterback sneaks. And my favorite was Jordan Mailata saying that like he went over and he was like, stay down. He was like, pick me the F up. Like this dude is nails.
Yeah.
He is nails, bro. Like he is just, I mean, the throw he made down the sideline to AJ Brown to pretty much ice it.
Yeah.
When coming off the sprained shoulder hit in that weather, like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like you said it best. I think Sirianni needs to learn from this because people are hunting him now.
Yeah.
They're hitting him to hurt him.
Yeah.
Because they feel as though without him on the field, they're not going to beat him. And look, you take the MVP off the field, and that's true.
They're probably a little bit right.
You're probably right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
But Jalen still made plays after that, despite being a system quarterback, still made plays to ice this game. And I think that just speaks volumes to his MVP case. I think it speaks volumes to his grit. I think it speaks volumes to his ability to, take over a football game and do what's necessary for his team to win.
Yeah.
So it just bothers me that it's a really bad run defense they played against, and Miles Sanders just kind of stood around and watched.
It's one of those things that doesn't make any sense. There's no explanation.
I won't understand it.
No, there's no explanation. It was the wrong decision. Just period, point blank.
Yeah.
They made the wrong decision.
Yeah. Hey, real quickly, before we jump over to some other talk about Jalen. I just feel like this needs to be said about the defense. They could be the first team in NFL history to have 4 players with double-digit sacks. They have 2. So, and a little pat on the back there, because they did hit my prediction in the preseason, which was right. 2 players with 10 sacks.
As a prediction, check that box.
Hassan Reddick with 12, Pro Bowler, and then Javon Hargrave with 10, not even a reserve, which is just wild to me. Josh Sweat is a half a sack away, and Brandon Graham's a sack and a half away. Brandon Graham, coming off Achilles, 34 years old. Guy is still doing it.
Yeah. Still takes advantage of his snaps.
Still doing it. And again, the defensive line is just so deep. And now they're able to do exactly what they've always wanted to do, which is rotate dudes. And like the pressure they're getting is just insane. Before we jump to this week, though, just a quick hat tip. We don't do this often, but I feel like it needs to be said. Justin Fields is going to be really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put some guys around him.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like a better version of Kyler Murray. He's bigger. He's stronger.
He reminds me of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's a little bit more dynamic of a runner.
Yes. I think there's a difference in, his running ability.
Their running style is different. Like, he's a little bit more make you miss. Jalen's a little bit more of like, I'm just going to carry you because I'm stronger than you.
Yes. That's why I kind of put that Kyler Murray comparison, because
there's some stuff with his throwing. Like, there were a bunch of balls that were like behind guys. I think the NFL, he's just got to catch up to the NFL game.
That's obviously where he needs to continue to improve. But look, that's what we said about Jalen a year and a half ago.
Yeah. The thing will be, can he play in that environment, that weather? Because that weather is like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Holy moly.
I mean, but again, that's where his running ability comes in, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's jump into what's coming here. One cool stat that I did see that I just need to mention. Seth Walder, who's ESPN sports analytics writer, tweeted out a graph about receiver tracking metrics. And on it's like an axis graph. Yeah. So the Y is target rate and the X is an open score. So AJ Brown's open score is 100. Devontae Smith open score is 75. Their target rate is pretty much shared between like 2/10 and 3/10. So like they're and now Tyreek Hill, his target rate is like way up, and his open rate is like 85 to 90. But basically AJ Brown's open all the time. Always open.
Yeah. I think, and again, AJ Brown's been in the league a little longer than Devontae. So I think there's there's an experience to what he does. And I think Devontae has the potential to get there. I really do, because we see when he's such a good route runner, and this is something you talked about a bunch when they first got him, and even last year, just talking about how good of a route runner he was, that he's going to get himself open regardless of not being the strongest dude out there. But yeah, man, God, the freaking Titans let us get AJ Brown for like a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, and a flip of picks. We gave him the first 2.
It's like, Jesus, that guy's good.
Unbelievable. Hey, real quickly, just before we go into this week, let's touch on the Pro Bowlers. So the Eagles have 8 plus the 9 reserves, so 17 guys named to the Pro Bowl in some capacity. So let's do the guys who are the actual guys. 8 leads the league. Obviously, MVP Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders in his first 1,000 rushing yard season, AJ Brown in his first season as a Bird, Lane Johnson, my guy Landon Dickerson.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, if you had to guess 3-0 linemen to make the Pro Bowl off the Eagles, you wouldn't have guessed Landon Dickerson. You would have put Mile. You would have put Mile out of there.
I want to go back to that episode and see what I say.
I mean, but I just think if you're outside looking in, you would have said Johnson, Kelsey, and Mailata, right?
Yeah, I just need to go back and see if I said that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember if I said 3 names. I'll have to go back and listen. Yeah. Kelsey, Hassan Reddick, and Darius Slay. Now, couple of reserves that I feel like we need to talk about. Jordan Mailata.
Yep.
Isaac Seumalo. Devontae Smith is a reserve. James Bradbury. Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham. Javon Hargrave. Josh Sweat. Rick Lovato. Chauncey not being on here is kind of odd.
Who?
Chauncey.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I'm like thinking about that now. I didn't think about that. Huh. Okay. Interesting. All right. Well,
Garner Johnson's on this list if he's not hurt.
That's what I'm saying. I'm stunned.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. I always forget his name, Chauncey.
Okay. And you know who else isn't on it? TJ Edwards.
Yeah.
TJ Edwards has been one of the best linebackers in football this year. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's a lot of names still.
Yeah, it is. And it's wonderful. And I hit another one there.
Yeah, you did. You sure did.
It's the whole line, Regs. It's the whole line.
Crazy. It's crazy.
That's awesome. So good. So good. All right. So, hey, they have a game on Saturday night, a game on Christmas Eve. I'll only be able to watch part of it. Unbelievable. One year, I wish we were going to midnight mass. Minshew Mania running wild. No Jalen Hurts. Let me ask you this before we talk a little bit about Gardner Minshew and what this game means for him. Like, I feel like if this was a must-win, Jalen would be playing.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with them keeping him out of this. Like, they have to win one of the next 3 to guarantee home field advantage. This is not the time to bring him back off a hurt shoulder. This defensive line is still very good.
Yeah.
And can still get to the quarterback and can still put some hits on him. This is not the time to bring him back. It's not worth it. Let him rest. Win your game against the Giants or who's the other, who they have to play in between?
New Orleans.
Thank you. New Orleans, who are terrible. Like, bring him back for one of those. Give him another week of rest. It's his throwing shoulder, which I think makes a difference here.
All right, let me ask you this.
You got to make sure he's okay.
Next question, follow-up question. Gardner Minshew goes into Dallas, wins the football game.
I can't wait for that to happen.
Does Jalen Hurts play at all before the playoffs?
Sparingly.
Like a quarter?
Yes. I think you have to bring him in to like just get the feel back.
Yeah.
You know, just keep him loose, keep him throwing the ball.
Yeah.
I don't think you run him at all in those situations. You hand the ball off all the time.
Yeah.
You get him in there just to get the feel of the game, get the feel of everything.
I believe they're both home games.
Yeah, because the Giants would be at home because we just played there.
Yeah, I think New Orleans is at home too.
Yeah, so I think
both home games.
I think he plays sparingly. Yes, just to get the shoulder back, feeling okay, make sure he can still throw.
Yeah,
all that stuff. I don't think he plays a lot. If they win this game, he doesn't play more than a quarter, like you said.
Now, Gardner Minshew had to play a game late last year against Dallas, and it didn't go well, like at all. Now, the Eagles played like no starters.
Yeah.
Because their playoff spot was locked.
Yep.
So they played no one. Now, if you ask Cowboy fans, that was a Super Bowl, and, you know, so be it for them. The other thing about this game is if the Cowboys do win, that actually helps the Eagles a little bit in terms of playoff seeding. But when Gardner Minshew has played with the starters, he's been really good. Think back to the Jets game last year. He had 3 touchdown passes.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to play with the
starters. He was really good in that game.
Yeah, he's going to play with the starters this game.
Yeah, he's playing with the starters, and he's also playing with the idea of I'm a free agent at the end of this year. And I need a contract, and I want to start. Like, remember last year after the Jets game, he went to Sirianni and was like, I want that spot. I want to start.
Yeah.
Can I get it? And Nick was like, no.
Yeah.
And so, he wants to start somewhere, and I think that's fair. There's no, I hope he blows up on Saturday.
That would
I
be
do.
just the best.
And he's like the perfect guy to do it because, and Regs, how good would it feel to not just clinch in Dallas, but you put a little bit more pressure on them because they're not guaranteed a playoff spot right now. Like, there are teams still hanging on the border, hanging on the periphery, sniffing and pushing. And, Dallas doesn't have easy games after them. We talked about this. They've got Tennessee and they've got Washington.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of this game is that Gardner has to protect the football like Jalen does.
Yeah.
Because your defense could win you this game.
He is a freaking gunslinger, dude.
Your defense could win you this game.
Yeah.
So Gardner doesn't have to go out and throw 4 touchdowns, like, for them to win this game. They don't have to. Their secondary's banged up. And we've seen that, like, Dak will throw the errant football.
Mm-hmm.
And this defense has been pretty... Again, they haven't had a ton of turnovers like they had been having in the first maybe 7-8 weeks. But hopefully this defense can continue to take advantage of bad throws and getting pressure on the quarterback like they have been. We've seen what that does to Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Like, your defense can absolutely win you this game, and Gardner doesn't have to, like, go out there and throw 40 times. It just doesn't have to happen. So,
no.
Yeah.
Well, and we also, 2 big pieces coming back. Dallas Goedert's back this week.
Yeah.
And friend of the show, Reed Blankenship is back.
That's right.
So, those are key pieces coming back. I think Reed in the run game is enormous.
Yeah, it is.
Because he's so downhill and like
Pollard is very good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Agreed. So you kind of gave me your key to the game with, Gardner protecting the football. And I think that's an amazing key to the game. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. One other thing before we get into predictions, and I do my key in predictions. Riggs, there's part of me that believes that some of the sitting of Jalen is we're not going to show you, and I think we're going to see something pretty vanilla. We're not going to show you a whole lot in this game. We're going to do some different things, and because we very well may see you in the divisional round, and we're not going to show you a lot. If we beat you with our vanilla stuff, great. If we don't, we'll just go out and beat New Orleans with it, and we'll see, and we'll unleash it in the postseason. I think some of it's that too. Like, I just think if he needed to play, he'd play.
Yeah.
And they would do what they needed to do. But that Dallas loss to Jacksonville is
huge.
Just huge, because now you just have to win one of your last 3, and you should be able to do that blindly.
Right.
So,
exactly.
All right. So you gave your key, protect the ball. Was that your key?
Yeah, I'm happy to leave that. I think it's that combined with the defense stopping Pollard and Elliott.
Okay.
I think you can focus on CeeDee Lamb. Like, I know they have a couple other receivers, but they're not going to kill you. And I think if they can continue to get the quarterback pressure that they've been getting, like, we've seen how Dak handles that. So
yeah. Well, they are 4.5-point underdogs. The first game they've been an underdog in.
That's right.
Like all season. And I think the reason that Vegas switched so quickly was because of Jalen Hurts.
Oh yeah.
It was like,
they were
1.5 point.
Yeah, they were an underdog even with Jalen playing.
Yeah, but we always talk about this. It's 3. You get 3 points for being the home team.
Right.
It's really they didn't even. Yeah. And the total's 46.5. So what do you got, Regs?
I'm going to say that we win the game 24-20.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right. I've got
Do you have any other keys that you can think of? Like, what do you think?
Well, yeah, for sure. I want Dallas Goedert involved.
Yeah.
Early and often. I think he's so important for Gardner Minshew. I think Minshew loves using his tight end, but I think, him coming back and establishing that he's healthy. I mean, we've been able to roll offensively without him, fortunately, but I'd argue he's the most important player on the offense.
Yeah.
We rolled with a rookie and a second year tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Like Grant Calcaterra and Jack Stoll held it down. Yeah. Now we've got arguably our best offensive player coming back on the field. And I really want them to attack with Dallas Goedert, because I don't think the Cowboys have someone to guard Dallas Goedert, and it's been that way for a while.
Yeah, it's what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? The number 9 kid.
Michael Parsons?
Yeah. Wasn't he the one who was covering him most of the time?
No.
Because Vander Esch is out, isn't he?
Yes and no. I mean, he's more rush the quarterback. You're gonna see a lot of safety stuff on.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But he's just not very guardable.
No, yeah, that's absolutely right.
And I kept saying I don't want to see these screens until Dallas Goedert gets back. He's the only one they work with.
Yeah.
So and I think as always, getting pressure on Dak is just so big. It's so important.
Yeah.
He doesn't run the same way he used to. So
no.
Getting pressure on him is important. I think the Eagles win on a late field goal from Jake Elliott, 27-24. I don't know if it's a clock running out field goal. I think it's probably like with a minute left, and Dak gets one more shot, but they get him. He turns it over, like something like that.
Yep.
But again, I'm not going to be sweating it out too much, because if they win, great. If not, we get to play is their backup quarterback game like they did to us. But the question is, will Philly turn their back on Jalen if Gardner comes in and gunslings them to a blowout win? Because we know how Philly is with their backup quarterback, Regs.
Some stupid people will, but we will not.
No, I like Gardner Minshew. I like him a lot. But Jalen Hurts is the deal. He's the deal.
Yes.
All right, man. You ready for a little fixated here?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, we're going to keep it short and sweet. Fixated on the holiday season, whatever it is you celebrate, in the next month, next week, whatever it may be. We wish you the happiest of holidays, the safest of holidays, time to enjoy with your family, with your friends. I know that we always enjoy this holiday here. We have a lot of traditions that we look forward to. A good chance to relax after what's been a really stressful 2022. I'm really excited to start 2023, Regs. Like, I cannot wait. That'll be next week's Fixated. But for this week, I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, enjoy your celebrations, and take some time to tell those that you love them. Give them a hug, tell them you love them. And tell them why they're special to you. So, big guy, I love you. I'm happy that we get to do this every week. And Merry Christmas to you and Angela and the kids, and early Happy New Year. We'll do a show next week and do the real Happy New Year then. But until then, I hope you have a great Christmas, buddy.
Hey, right back at you. I love you. All the best to the fam. Tell everyone I said hi. Tell your mom I'm going to try and see her this coming year so I can give her a hug, so she can look forward to that. But yeah, again, happy holidays to everybody. Enjoy the time off if you get some. Enjoy being around family, friends. And we'll see you next week for a New Year's edition. Yeah,
it'll be our wrap up of the year.
That's right. A crazy year.
What we're looking at for 2023.
Yeah.
All right, but in the meantime, make sure you click subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. At the bottom here, make sure that you follow us on all podcast platforms. Follow, rate, subscribe, all those things. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at the platform, which is at B&B Podcast. Follow that same thing on Twitter. Follow the Fixated Pod on Twitter. You can follow me at the Mic Drop 5 or Regs at Big Regs with a Z. Hop on to Facebook and follow us at the Fixated fan page. I got to get that rolling again, do some polls, some fun things like that. And of course, click the merchandise link. Got a bunch of merchandise for my family, Rags, for Christmas. So excited to give that to them here in the next 3 days.
That's right.
But until we talk again on Thursday of next week, be safe, be kind, take care of one another, have the best holiday, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care, everybody.
We love you all. Happy holidays.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.